One day, when I was serving tea to my teacher, the teacup slipped off the tray and fell to the floor. It was an antique cup, very old and very beautiful, with a poem inscribed on it. My teacher had received it as a gift from his teacher. It was his favorite teacup and very precious to him. I cried out when it hit the floor. My teacher looked up from his book and nodded. "Already broken," he said, and went back to his reading. I was confused. The teacup wasn't already broken, and thankfully it survived the fall to the floor. I picked it up and examined it, and not finding a single chip or a crack, I washed it and brought it back, and carefully served my teacher his tea. When he asked me to join him, I expected him to say something about my clumsiness, or to explain what he'd meant. But he didn't. He just quietly sipped his tea and gazed out into the garden as if nothing had happened. Finally, I couldn't stand it anymore. "Hojo-san," I said, putting down my own cup. "Your teacup didn't break. Why did you say it was already broken?" He held up his cup and admired it. "It's quite old, you know. Maybe 200 years. It was made by Rengetsu. Do you know who Rengetsu was? She was a great beauty, but she had a very sad life. She was an illegitimate child and was given away for adoption when she was just an infant. Later, she married twice, but both husbands and all 5 of her children died. And so she shaved her head and became a Buddhist nun. She was poor but creative, and so she started making pottery and writing poems on her cups and bowls. They became very popular, and she made a lot of money, but she gave it all away to the poor." I listened to him impatiently. He often did this, went off on some tangent, and forgot about my question. But this time I was determined to get an answer. He was reading the nun's poem on the side of the cup. "The world's dust, swept aside here in my hermitage. I have all I need, the wind in the pines. But Hojo-san, the teacup isn't broken." He looked up, surprised. "To me, it is," he said. "It is the nature of a teacup to be broken. That is why it is so beautiful now, and why I appreciate it when I can still drink from it." He looked at it fondly, took a last sip, and then placed the empty cup carefully back on the tray. "When it is gone, it is gone." That day, my teacher gave me a priceless lesson in the impermanence of form and the empty nature of all things. Another teacup lesson came several years later, after my teacher had died. On March 11th, 2011, at 2:46 p.m., a magnitude 9 undersea megathrust earthquake struck off the northeastern coast of Japan. I was in the kitchen at the little temple in Tokyo, 373 kilometers from the epicenter, preparing tea, when all of a sudden I was knocked sideways and Rengetsu's teacup went flying from my hands. My teacher had given me the teacup when he made me his Dharma heir, and I treasured it. As it flew from my hands, I lunged for it, cursing myself for my clumsiness. And the next moment, I was lying on the floor. Only then did I realize what was happening. Pots and pans were sliding off the countertop, dishes were shattering and crashing to the ground. I covered my head and rolled onto my hands and knees. The ground was lurching beneath me, tossing me from right to left, and everywhere food was flying. Somehow I managed to crawl to the stove and turn off the gas. The earthquake lasted for 6 long minutes, and when it was over, I cleaned up the kitchen. I found Rengetsu's teacup in pieces on the floor. I gathered the shards and brought them into my study and laid them on the altar in front of my teacher's portrait. "You were right," I said. "Already broken." What we experienced in Tokyo was nothing compared to what was happening in the north, where a terrible tsunami wave was forming in the ocean that would destroy everything in its path and sweep more than 15,000 people to their deaths. The earthquake shook us awake, and the tsunami washed away our delusions. It caused us to question our values and our attachment to material possessions. When everything I think of as mine, my belongings, my family, my life, can be swept away in an instant, I have to ask myself, what is real? The wave reminded us that impermanence is real. This is waking up to our true nature. Already broken. Knowing this, we can appreciate each thing as it is and love each other as we are, completely, unconditionally, without expectation or disappointment. Life is even more beautiful this way, don't you think? Much later, I found a traditional craftsman who could repair the Rengetsu teacup with gold and lacquer to hold the pieces together. Now, in the cracks, there are delicate seams of gold which honor the cup's brokenness. To my eyes, it is lovelier now than ever. Hey there, Tim friends. Welcome back to the channel. The passage that you just heard was from The Book of Form and Emptiness by Ruth Ozeki. An author, filmmaker, and certified Zen Buddhist priest, she wrote this incredible book that I'm certain would be worth your time, though that's not exactly what this video is about. The reason why I included that passage in the beginning was because I felt it excellently encapsulated the idea that I hope to share with you today. And so what is that idea? What am I actually talking about? So I recently went through, and I guess you could say am still recovering from, one of life's many downswings. Not for any particular reason, it was just one of those things, where you start to ask the sort of big questions in your mind that keep you up at night and make you worry about all sorts of things that aren't particularly concrete or have any kind of real answer, Eventually, I was fortunate enough to have this great experience where I was able to get outside of my own head, and I watched some movies and went for a midnight walk in the rain, and I just really was able to be present and enjoy the feeling of the rain on my skin and appreciate the beauty of the flowers blooming in the trees and so on. It was a great experience, and I feel that I really had a sort of conceptual breakthrough, I guess you could say. And I'm sure it won't last forever, and I'm sure there will be many more, but as I'm in this sort of state right now, I wanted to share my findings with all of you. And so that's where this passage comes in. Already broken, right? I think of this akin to the same phrase that my wife says often, which is, hold things with an open hand. The very nature of life is impermanence. That is to say, nothing stays forever. Even the things that we feel are permanent, or the relationships we cherish most, the people we cherish most, the possessions we cherish most, all of these things will eventually break, or all of these people will eventually pass, including ourselves. And this kind of thinking is prone to feeling depressing or sad. But what I hope to share with you, and what I hoped that this passage got across, was the idea that this is actually very liberating and freeing. We spend so much of our time and energy trying to cling to so many things and to build these structures in our mind of how we want things to be and how things should be and the kinds of relationships we should have and the people we need to keep in our lives and the things we need to strive for and earn money to buy and all of that, right? But the thing is that the very nature, the very essence of all of these things is that they cannot and will not last forever. And this is what it means to think of them as already broken. Just as the Zen teacher says in the story, if we think of things as already broken, then we can truly appreciate what they are right now. And that really is the key to the story and the key to this video. I was hoping to get across the message to just try and appreciate the beauty of everything as it is in your life right now. So, I guess ultimately, you could boil this down to a very similar thing to many of the videos I've made in the past, but I feel it really is about being here now and understanding the reality that everything is already broken and everyone is already gone, because it is in the very nature of things to break and in the very nature of people to leave. And I do feel that if we can truly appreciate and understand these facts, then we can finally gain the ability to truly appreciate those things and people for what they are now, and we're able to live more fulfilling lives. It's really easy for all of these ideas and facades about how life should be to build up these crazy walls around you, making you feel like life is much worse than it is. And I feel like that's really one of the key essences of this idea of already broken. And yeah, so I hope that if you're in a bad place, that this video was able to give you some solace, or if in the future you are looking for some solace, I hope that this video may help you. And whether you're me in the future or you are just another human being going through it, I hope to get the message across that life is really what you make of it, and to cherish every moment you have with the people you love really isn't such a bad way to live. But yeah, with that being said, I believe we have reached the end of our time, so I do hope that this video was able to help you in some way. And hey, if you want to talk, go ahead and leave a comment down below. Let me know what's on your mind, or feel free to chat in the Discord. Either way, and if not, that's totally fine too. I hope that you are doing well, and if you're not, I hope you can find your way out of it soon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.